Up, you guys? Emma here. I wanted to jump on and do an update episode. I have a few things that have been weighing on my heart, and I've needed some time to process them. And although I'm still in the process of processing some of this stuff, I wanted to come on here and give the best update that I can on a few things, to hopefully bring some clarity and then also to address some things that I've been sort of contemplating in my own mind on the direction that I want to continue going with this podcast with your help and support, of course. So, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is a really, really sad situation that happened last month on December 18th. And that's in American time where the event took place. It was actually the 19th because this event took place in the United Kingdom, with a survivor that has been on the podcast. And for some of you, this might help bring some clarity as to why I did a three-part series recently. I replayed it on my podcast featuring survivor Kevin Sutherland. I really didn't give too much context to it because it was just important to me that I had these episodes at the top of my podcast so people looking and searching for Kevin, and Googling his name could find these episodes easily and to also pay tribute to him. Um, it's really sad when we have loss in our community. And excuse me, this might be a little bit hard for me. Um, I think one of the things we don't talk about enough, we talk about healing, we talk about struggles. Um, but something a lot of survivors face on a very consistent basis is thoughts of suicide and not wanting to be here. And trigger warning for anybody listening who may be sensitive to these words or this information. Um, on the 18th of December, I was at home and I received a message from Kevin. Sorry. Saying that he was going to take his life. And as you can imagine, that's a very devastating message to get. And I know that he has had issues with this in the past. So I immediately called him multiple times and he didn't pick up. And he had a message that he had posted on his social media accounts that sort of detailed why he made this decision. And as you can imagine, it's all related to the abuse that he went through and not getting the justice that he deserved and wanted so badly. It deserves so badly. So, again, trigger warning. I wanted to bring attention to this. As you can tell, I'm still really emotional about this, so bear with me here, you guys. Um, but before I show you guys his messages, I would just wanted to share kind of like a backstory about Kevin because I never really talked about this before, and it was kind of interesting how I met him. So a few years ago, I don't even know when it was. I'd have to go back to my messages and look. I had never heard of Kevin, and another survivor that has been on the show, Molly Sky Brown, who I love, she had tagged me in a post on Instagram where Kevin was coming forth and he put out a post saying, "Hey, I'm an abuse survivor and I want to tell my story." And of course, there's not a lot of people, especially then, that were sharing these stories. So Molly saw the post and she tagged me. I reached out to Kevin, said, "Hey, I'm a new podcaster. I have this podcast. I am featuring survivors. I'd love to share your story if that's something you'd be interested in." And he got back to me right away and agreed to come on my show. And I thought that was amazing because according to him, he had a bunch of people also outreach and ask him to be on their podcasts. And he chose he chose this podcast. which was a great honor. So, when I met Kevin, I couldn't believe how brilliant and kind he was, despite everything he had went through. And I think we can all agree listening to this show, my podcast, that that's pretty consistent with a lot of these guests. It's amazing the level of love and care and compassion they've cultivated through such horror, and they've developed it better than people who never went through what they did. And Kevin was one of those people. He had never spoken out before about his abuse, and he was extremely articulate on his episodes. Extremely articulate. He had lots of memory recall. He shared some really vulnerable moments, and also was really amazing with how he was able to sort of tie in lessons that he's learned along the way as well. Kevin's story also had multiple layers to it. He was a care survivor, so he was put into foster care and boarding school and basically was raised by people who weren't family his entire childhood and life. And the abuse that he endured at the hands of strangers mimics a lot of other survivors who have come forth in his country saying the same. And we've had a couple of those people on our podcast. And there's plenty more that haven't spoken up, that have spoken to me behind the scenes or spoken to Kevin and other survivors about what happened to them. But as you can imagine, in some countries, it's easier to talk out than others. And the United Kingdom is one country where it's very difficult to talk about abuse. And despite there being a massive network of survivors and perpetrators, there's only so few that have been really vocal about it, and they're heroes, and Kevin's one of them. So he did a two-part episode with me a couple years ago, and after that he was like, no more podcasts, I want to sort of, heal and focus on my life, and I just wanted to get my story out. And so one of the things that he had done was he went to testify before the child abuse inquiry in the UK and didn't realize the repercussions that this would have on his life. They do not share that the testimonies shared will be broadcast online, made public. They oftentimes sort of corner very vulnerable survivors and individuals who want justice so bad they're willing to do anything. And these inquiries and these testimonies that are meant to be more private and for the purpose of getting justice end up essentially, you know, blackmailing these survivors throughout their lives without justice. You rarely hear about justice being served for this, and it's different than in America. So I would encourage you to listen to both Kevin's episode, and then there's another survivor on my podcast, Dave Sharp, who really dives deep into these nuances in the United Kingdom and what survivors there face, why people aren't speaking out, and, the repercussions that take hold of somebody's life after they divulge this information in good faith to this inquiry, which does not have their best interest in mind and is not acting in good faith to the survivors coming forth. So, with that being said, Kevin also whistle blew a famous, I guess you could call him a TV personality. He is on a channel called GB News, and I'm sure he has a big resume of things that he has accomplished or done or partook in. But this individual's name is Dan Wootton, and Kevin whistle blew being sexually abused and raped by this man. And Kevin is, again, not the only survivor, witness, and victim to come forth to share abuse by this individual. And we talk about this individual in the first couple episodes that he was in on my podcast. However, at the time, he did not say the name of the individual because this person is very famous in the UK. Some of you here in America may not know that name off the top of your head, but people in the UK do, and he is a very big celebrity there in a sense, or a well-known public figure. The respect society has for him, I don't know. I don't know if he's looked at as a celebrity per se, but he is very well known, and he's somebody, he's a big name to name and to go up against out there, and Kevin was brave enough to do so. And so this past year, Kevin reconnected and asked if we could do a third podcast episode, which aired in July of this past year, really diving into what happened with him and Dan, because he was very upset that, and is very upset. It's very upsetting, that victims are getting abused by these big names and nothing happens, and there were some other witnesses this past year and the year before that started to come forward and share. There were some really brave journalists who started covering these cases, and Kevin was one of those that stepped forward first to share about his abuse. And this individual, Dan Wootton, is still today on TV. He's still respected by a lot of people. He has a massive following on all social media platforms. And it's sick. It's really sick. So I wanted to share, and again, trigger warning, I wanted to share Kevin's final messages with you. And I don't know how well you'll be able to see them on the screen because he does write a lot. I'm not going to read through all of it, because it might be too triggering for me and possibly for you. And there's a lot of information. He wrote a lot of slides. I think there's like 12 different slides that he wrote. But anyways, going back to that night that Kevin messaged me, it was about 2 in the morning in his country, and I'm sure he reached out to other people, but here in America, it was only about 8 p.m. So I ended up being the one to make the call to the police. I didn't even know who to call. I don't live in the UK. I'm Googling on my phone, like, how do I contact the police in Scotland, in the United Kingdom? I found the number. I was not in good shape to be talking to the police, and I had no idea of personal information of Kevin. I obviously don't live there. I have spoken to him, and my friendship with him is through Zoom and through other means of talking, social media. So I didn't have Kevin's address. I didn't have his personal information. So I ended up being able to get them to find his Twitter page. And from there, they were able to identify him. Um, and we discovered a lot from his tweets that he made, including that he had asked originally, he had his he declared that it was okay for him to not be anonymous when he first testified um on his inquiry to the child abuse inquiry in his country. And later, I would say, I don't know when exactly he protested this, but he went back and asked to have his anonymity waived and to have that, to be able to take his privacy back because he wanted to move on with his life. And they made it very clear that this was not possible, that because his original agreement was to be public about his testimony, that um they could not do anything further to help him get his testimony offline. And I guess it was affecting his mental health, and he let them know that they did not care. They did not they didn't care. There was no aftercare after this. And again, he didn't realize that by being public, that this meant when you type in his name in Google, that his entire testimony, a 60-page testimony, I believe it was about 60 pages, would proliferate and be the thing that people got to see about him. He was in a place where he wanted to heal and to take back take back his power in a sense, and move forward with his life and not have that be what identified him. A lot of survivors you see on my show sort of go that direction where they reach a point and they're like, I want to start a business, or I want to do something with my story and not just be known for my past. I want to be known for something else. And for somebody who's very vulnerable and who suffers with suicidal ideation or other mental health issues, when you're in the process of healing and you're not healed, seeing that online and having people see that and knowing that that sensitive information is just there, it's not private anymore, um, that can be very, very destabilizing for people. So I wanted to share Kevin's last messages. And again, keep in mind the state of mind he was probably in. These messages aren't very friendly. They're not pleasant to read. But just like we listen to these testimonies, we need to also listen to what the messages were of the people who aren't here anymore to share it with us. And so I want to shine a light on Kevin's last message and what we can learn from his situation. So I'm going to show that to you guys and just sort of leaf through this with you. Kevin was very active on Twitter. He was the most active. I wouldn't say he was very active, but Twitter was where he posted most, even though he had an Instagram account. And okay, let me share this with you guys. Sorry, it's really sad. Okay. So here was Kevin's final message. And he wrote, it's his final announcement. If you're reading this, it means I have died. The amount of red flags that have been ignored by absolutely everyone to allow me to get to this final point is unforgivable. Please check with Police Scotland that I did jump from a suspension bridge in Edinburgh, just so you can put the doubters and liars to rest straight away and don't take my word for it. Uh, and he goes on to write a bunch of pretty devastating messages, starting with my final message to the world. Dan Wootton won, and you, the public, allowed it to happen. Oh, so sad. So as you can see just from this one message, and I'll link this below for those of you who are listening. You guys can go look at it if you want. But he makes, I believe it's 12 pretty devastating messages detailing Dan Wootton a little bit, and then also the child abuse inquiry testimony that he had asked to be anonymous, and was turned down. And so he puts out a bunch of different messages on here and talks a little bit about his childhood. And I think sometimes we tend to be a little bit, we take for granted if we haven't gone through abuse, the after effects of that, and how even if somebody's trying to heal or if they've grown up, how that abuse, how they wear it still, and how it makes them feel. And one of the things that he wrote that broke my heart was, give me just a sec. How can anyone move forward from this? How can you expect to find love again, or even go on a date with all of this sitting there, or even attempt to socialize, meet new people? It's completely impossible when all they see is victim, child abuse, and other distressing terms. Most people don't even know at first glance what the child abuse inquiry is about, but they are seeing my name associated with such terms. I simply did not wish to be forever publicly linked with every aspect of my traumatic childhood. Then he writes, I deserve to be heard more than ever now, considering all of this cost me my life. I have paid the ultimate of all prices. Please spread the message. Ooh. Sorry, guys, it's really hard for me. Okay, so you guys can see some of these messages. All this mess stopped me from ever truly finding any kind of happiness or love. And that's why I just had absolutely no choice but to surrender once and for all. No one wanted someone as contaminated as me. God. Like, how heavy is that? Abuse does not make you contaminated, you guys. It does not make you contaminated. So sad. And then there's another woman that he shares about named Lady Smith, and she is the one who made the final decision about his inquiry not being able to be anonymous. So she is the other name that is listed in here. And he named me as having the three interviews that we did. Um, so I also feel a personal responsibility to disperse this information and to shine a light on Kevin and his story because I was the only podcast that he ever shared his story on, and he's no longer here to share it anywhere else. So um, it's really important for me that this information gets out. God, this is harder than I thought it would be. I'm really sorry, you guys. Um, I feel a personal responsibility to keep Kevin's legacy alive, to have his voice heard, to share these names that he gave and his podcast episodes. So I wanted to show you guys where you can find those. So I recently posted Kevin's three episodes, and I posted them on Twitter and on every platform that I possibly could, just so they were more searchable, so they were together. And so this information could be sort of at the top of my list of podcasts since um, the first two episodes that we did together were years ago, and even the third episode I did with him this summer, and it's way down the list. So I wanted to make sure to sort of have these available for you guys, but I do realize I didn't give much context other than in the show notes. If you looked, I did write these are a tribute to Kevin and to his story, and that he's no longer here. So that's what happened. And I'll show you guys a couple articles. The other really sad thing is that they have really tried to bury Kevin's story. So um they put out a few news articles about it, but they are really trying to silence Kevin. And one thing that I learned about the UK is that for missing people, I don't know how the rules and stipulations work, but there is something called an appeal where they, if somebody is missing for a certain amount of time, potentially, or if there's another standard that this goes by, they will start sort of an investigation into why this person went missing and start investigating alongside people that were sort of the last ones to talk to Kevin or who may have information on this missing person. So Kevin is currently considered a missing person in a sense, because even though he says how he took his life, his body has not been found yet. So this is very distressful for his family, for his friends. It's really sad that there can't be closure at this time. All Kevin ever wanted was peace. And if that's if this is the way that he went and he is no longer here with us, he deserves that, and so does his family. And they are not at peace right now. They are devastated, wondering every day if Kevin will be found, because he has not been. And so this even this shows a little bit about his sister who I connected with. She is a beautiful soul. Her name is Melanie. She has been advocating for him as well because this news was obviously very devastating. And this article shares some of her words as well. But anyways, there has been no appeal for Kevin. And as another survivor brought to my attention, there was somebody recently in the news in the UK who went missing. And a couple days later, there was one of these appeals made for them. And so why hasn't there been one for Kevin? Why are they not investigating what led him to this and trying to discover if there's clues as to his whereabouts or the loss of his life or where his body could possibly be if it's not where they thought it was. So there's a lot of non-closure with this, which is one of the reasons why it's difficult for me to talk about this right now, because I also don't have closure. Um, there's another article that I'll bring up. So you can Google his name and type in the UK survivor, and you'll find some articles that will come up detailing some situations that he was going through at the time that he made this decision to take his own life. But it's very sad when our community loses people from the lack of care and justice that they receive from the absolute horrors that they have endured, survived, and deserve to heal, move on from, and receive justice for. So, I might link some of these in the show notes for you guys here, just so you guys can go look. But what I would love is if you guys could help shine a light on his story, and you don't even have to share his podcast episodes here. If you could just share some articles, if you could take clips of the podcast that we did, if you could share his tweet, um, any way that we can keep his voice heard and hold these people accountable who were very irresponsible with his testimony and with what he was going through, and who also are trying to silence him and gaslight him into getting out of the abuse allegations that he came forth with so bravely. Yes, I'm talking to you, Dan Wootton and Lady Smith. So, with that being said, take care of each other, you guys. You know, this is a hard time of year too. December is obviously right in the middle of a really hard season for a lot of survivors. And although Kevin didn't come forth saying he was an SRA survivor or a mind control survivor, you know, the holidays, regardless, in that time of year can still be very triggering for people who have or have not gone through that. And, you know, we don't know what people go through. And I just ask that you guys take care of each other and check in with one another, be kind, you know, and just realize that life can be really hard for people, and that just because a survivor is out talking and sharing their story and looks super happy and healed, um, and confident, you know, it doesn't mean that it just makes everything right for them. And you know, it doesn't mean that holidays are any easier, or some of these satanic calendar dates are easier. So if you guys could just keep that in mind, you know, as we traverse these years together, and bring more people on board this amazing journey with us who are speaking out, and even the ones that are not speaking out, you know, we have to take care of each other, and help one another. You know, and you think about just like these little differences, and like here's the kicker with Kevin's story, like he wanted that testimony taken down offline and made private. And the day that he went missing, the day that he took his life, they took it down. It took him not being here for them to fulfill the request that he had asked. So, you know, we have to realize that we live in this really broken society that doesn't care about survivors, and they're not going to until we make them. And that starts with us doing it. You know, we have to be the ones that care about one another, and you know, help share each other's stories and be there for one another, and educate the public on how they can also come in this circle and space, and make it safe for survivors, and you know, advocate for that, because it's not a safe space for them despite all the beautiful and amazing things that they do. You know, you watch Kevin in those interviews, and you'd never expect that he would just make this decision and follow through with it. You know, he seems so bright, and he was so bright and brilliant, and you know, had everything going for him. And so it's just really devastating when something happens to somebody in our community. So I wanted to share that with you guys in case it was confusing as to why I put out his episodes, and maybe why I haven't addressed that. I just haven't really had a lot of time to process. Even the night after I called the police after receiving a final message from Kevin, I had to go to work the next day, which was really hard, you know, and in some ways it made it easier because I could, you know, sort of be around people that had good energy and were uplifting and do things that I love. So in that way it was good, but you know, I haven't really had a ton of time to kind of sit back and process this, and I didn't want to be I'm still a mess, obviously, and I didn't want to come on and just be bawling my eyes out the whole time. So hopefully you guys can understand and just ask you all to pray that one way or another, Kevin's body surfaces or his whereabouts surface so his family can have some type of closure and you know, that we can start really really shining a light on these really hard things that happen in our community uh and prevent it from happening to others. So with that being said, I did want to give a couple other updates. So first of all, thank you guys for everything. It's been really hard since my YouTube channel got deleted. Um, Being on other platforms is great. I have tried doing that the entire time. For the most part that I've had a podcast, I've been on at least Spotify and iTunes, and I've added in Rumble, I've added in BitChute. Um, I'm on a lot of platforms, and now I'm streaming on X. And so I do have my podcast streaming on multiple platforms. However, YouTube was far superior from a user perspective of somebody who just goes on there and watches videos, and then from a creator perspective, somebody that has a podcast. There is no other streaming platform like YouTube, which is very unfortunate, because YouTube is complicit in silencing survivors' voices. They have now terminated my channel twice, as some of you know who have been following along, and on the grounds of cyberbullying and harassment. So that tells you all you need to know. And I've done a whole video on this, so I'm not gonna, beat a dead horse. But it's made me have to sort of rethink this direction, because if I am building up a podcast, and on my last YouTube channel I had reached 31,000 subscribers, which is very small in the grand scheme of what a big podcast is, but it was monumental for this community to have that many people interested in a platform like this, and also to be allowed to be on YouTube talking about this for so long before my channel got scrubbed. So I had a feeling it would happen, like how I said in my other video that I have done on this, but when you have to basically start over from scratch again, and you're a podcaster that's been podcasting for 4.5 years, there's hardly any other podcasters that talk about anything else, or excuse me, any other topics that face this type of adversity. It's these really difficult topics where you build up a whole community, you build up subscribers, you work so hard to get people invested into caring about what your guests have to say. And then it's just gone. All those hours and hours and hours and years of work just gone. And so as you can probably imagine, it's very disheartening. And like I said, I don't have the following on other platforms. And part of that I think is because other people don't like using the other platforms as much. And then also I think too, when a channel is suddenly terminated and the only place that people have followed you is on that platform. So YouTube, for example, those 31,000 subscribers do not know that I am on Rumble unless they refind my channel. And so having that capability of, you know, just having all of your stuff wiped out and then having to start all over again, it is really difficult, because it's like, I'm not a brand new podcaster. I shouldn't have to start from ground zero again. I shouldn't have to rebuild a following that I worked so hard for. But that's what happens when you're talking about this stuff. And Carrie Elahe made a very beautiful and touching video, which is gonna make me cry. You guys, I'm super emotional. I'm sorry. Um, and she had said in a, one day there's gonna be a reconciliation for these platforms that were complicit in the cover up of the worst crimes in human history. And she's absolutely right. And so I sleep at night knowing that these platforms will one day have to be part of that reconciliation. But for now, as a creator who's 4.5 years deep, like most podcasts that are in for that long, this consistently, they don't, they've grown, and they keep growing. They don't have to just start all over again. So anyways, that's my long story to say that one of the things that I'm going to do potentially over this over these next few months especially is um my work schedule. I work a full-time job for those of you who don't know, and I have very limited time outside of work to podcast, unless I'm up late at night, which then I'm exhausted the next day, or weekends, which are my only days off, and that is when I have been podcasting and recording my podcast. So I've been working 7 days a week and up late at night editing episodes. As you guys know, my podcasts are really long, and I listen to the entire podcast and edit it myself. I do it in pieces during the week, and then I take the edited version of the videos and upload it to every platform, and that's what you guys see as the final version. And then I do all the thumbnails by myself. I do the introductions by myself. I am the only one that is doing any of the work on my podcast. So I'm doing it. It's almost like another full-time job. And I'm not complaining about that. But what I wanted to say was I have such limited time that I think something that I'm going to start doing to sort of help rebuild awareness of this out in the community and to help people find my platform again and to find these testimonies is to start taking some time that I might normally shoot and record podcasts with guests and go on other people's podcasts. And since I am on a limited time, I have to sort of balance the time that I'm doing this. And so I might some weekends, just do one interview with a guest and then spend the other day podcasting on somebody else's podcast. But I think that that's a step that I need to take. And so there might be some weeks where I only have one episode. And then as I grow, I can start incorporating more and I can start having more freedom and flexibility to um, be more present. And I won't maybe have to do as much outreach, but I need to build awareness, and having these small platforms that I have to continue starting over again from scratch is very disheartening and difficult, especially considering all the work that I've done and that I'm not a brand new podcaster. So I think that's something that I will be doing. And maybe what I'll do with that is take those episodes once they've aired and put them on this platform so you guys can still have, two episodes on some of those weeks where maybe there's only one. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And then I have some more updates, but I think this might be enough for today. I'll probably come on here and do a few more updates here and there just to fill you guys in on kind of the direction that I'm looking to go. But as usual, I wanted to say if you're a survivor on the other end, and you want to share your testimony, my email is in the show notes. And if you want to share your testimony, but right now, maybe going public or showing your face or using your voice or even just speaking out might be too difficult or unsafe for you, I do have a Substack account that you guys can submit a written testimony or share information and I can distribute it that way. And you can be as censored as you want. You can pick a different name. There's lots of ways that we can help get this information out. And so I'll have my Substack below too. I'd love your support on that platform as well. I'm trying to get better with being more consistent using it, but like I said, I'm on a time crunch all the time. And so I'm trying to do my best with balancing everything. But I'll have that, but please reach out if you guys, need anything, if you guys want to talk, if you guys want to be on the show, or if you guys want to submit something in writing that I can help distribute for you on your behalf and have people read it and still create an impact without you having to sacrifice um your safety and or visibility / identity. So I will have that option for you guys as well. I do have another YouTube channel. I forgot to mention that earlier whenever I was talking to you. So let me share that with you real quick. I have had to make some difficult decisions on this front as well. So my old YouTube channel, I streamed every episode, the full episode. And I realized that I can't do that anymore. I do not have the capability of being able to do that because the second that I upload my library again for the third time on here, I will just be terminated once again. So Um, one second. So what I have had to do is, and I'll show you guys in just a sec. Let me load this. So I have my YouTube back up, and I'll show you guys my strategy, and I want to just quickly go over kind of what I'm planning on doing with this. So my new handle is Imagination Podcast Official. And thank you to the 800 subscribers that I have right now. That's awesome that some of you have found me and that the crossover is starting. And I have started my podcast from scratch. I don't have many of them up. Again, this is it's a very difficult task for me to do this on top of uploading episodes, new episodes, and recording them and editing them, that I'm doing new on Rumble and these other channels that I'm keeping updated in the current time. So going back to the past, this is like a whole nother full-time job of uploading 4.5 years of interviews onto this channel. One of the interviews I uploaded already got taken off, so I already have a warning on this channel. And as you can see, I only have a few videos. I only have 12 videos up here, and I had 13, and one of them already got terminated. So I do have a warning on my channel. But one of the things I wanted to share was that one of my strategies that I'm going to do is for the episodes that I believe are safe and that stayed up on the last channel without an issue, I do plan on uploading those videos, the full video, and I have done that with a few of these where you'll see it's an hour and a half, um, 2 hours. Some of these interviews are the full length. And then, for example, Brooke Federline, who I just did another interview with, if you guys have not caught up with her, or excuse me, caught up with my channel, I had done multiple interviews with her when I first started podcasting in my first and second season. And then, we didn't podcast for a while. We just did kind of a catch-up episode, which was awesome. So, but what I did with Brooke's episodes, because on my last channel, her episodes were very volatile with getting taken off. She disclosed a lot of really juicy, good stuff on her interviews. I uploaded 30 minutes of those, including the 13th episode that I had up. That one as well was only 30 minutes and it still got taken down. So I'm going to try to just be aware of that. And so your best bet is to follow me on a channel like Rumble, the Imagination Podcast. I'm here. Here I'm safe to upload all my episodes. I have them on BitChute as well. Twitter, Spotify, iTunes. Your best bet to get 100% of the episodes that I'm uploading and all my content in full length, no censorship, is on those platforms. On the Imagination on YouTube, I have 30 minutes to the full episode on here. And then if it's only 30 minutes, that's by design. And then in the show notes on these episodes, I do have the links for the full episode. If you guys want to continue watching, you can just go to Rumble. I have that linked. And then you guys can go there and watch the rest of the full length episode. So that is kind of my strategy. And then there will be a few episodes on here that 100% I remember which ones got terminated. And there'll be a couple on here that I just will not put on at all because it's a risk for my channel to have a strike or to be fully terminated. So there'll be a few episodes that I will only air and only have on the Imagination on the other few platforms that I'm on. And so I just wanted to update you guys with that because if, like I said, if you aren't already, follow me on YouTube. But if you want 100% of my content and to have the uncensored version, unedited, well, they're edited, but the uncensored versions of these podcasts, to go to other platforms to stream that. So I just want to give you guys a quick update. I'd love to hang out with you guys again on YouTube. I've been airing all of these episodes as premieres as I upload them, so we get to have fun again as a community. And for some of you who are new, or even some of you who have been around since the beginning, we can have sort of a nostalgic fun time going through some of these episodes and rewatching them together in the chat and hang out and support some of these survivors who came on board really early. And had faith in my channel and in me before anybody even knew who I was, which a lot of people still don't know who I am, and that's not the point. But it was really an honor that people still wanted to come on, even though like I literally had nothing to show for, my work. To have people trust me with their testimonies is truly a great honor. And I thank everybody who's came on from the beginning till now and who has been watching from the beginning till now or who has come in this journey at any point. Um, it means the world to me. This is my passion, and I couldn't do this without you guys. So follow me on YouTube, follow me on other platforms. I'm gonna do my best to continue uploading, but please be patient with me. I only have so much time, and it's kind of overwhelming. So um this will be a slow process getting my YouTube back up and then sort of using my own discernment to decide, how these episodes will look, if they're going to be the full length or else if I'm going to cut them short. So I do have a little bit of a process, but that's my strategy. So if you guys see some episodes that are not full length, that is why. They're just more volatile to get my channel shut down. And I really, if I'm going to invest this time, like I have to do it some type of smarter way because I want to be on YouTube. You guys want me on YouTube, but it's very difficult to be on YouTube. So I'm gonna try it again, you guys. Third time's a charm, right? So if you are a podcaster out there, I would love to come on your show. I'm gonna start booking more. I have not done that due to my limited time, but I think now is a good time to balance the two, to do more outreach and then to have a consistent podcast that I continue doing on my end. And like I said, the more that I grow and the more attention that this gets and these survivors get, the more opportunity it allows me to continue doing this more consistently, more frequently, as I was before. So I'm praying that we get back to that point, and I appreciate everybody who has helped. So support Kevin, go share, please share his episodes and at least watch them. Um, I loved him so much, and I really miss him. And I think you guys will see why in his testimony. But his story are very special, and his voice deserves to be heard and for justice to happen. So I'll have that in the show notes as well. But thank you guys for listening. I'm so grateful for you. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time.